What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to do it a little bit differently. You see, yesterday I put a poll on my channel asking you guys to vote about which brand new film that I've seen within the last week that you wanted to see a full review for, and you guys took the time to vote, and those are the results. Yeah, Primate and The Rip both came in first place, while Night Patrol was way down in third place, or I guess technically second since first tied. So I didn't really know what to do with that. I was like, well, I could do a quick review for The Rip, or I could do a review for Primate, or I could do this video, which is actually giving you guys 3 reviews in one video. Because I looked into the comment section of that voting post and I saw that there was a request for me to do Night Patrol, even though it was lagging behind in the votes. And I felt like I needed to do that because comments mean so much to me. I really appreciate interacting with all of you guys. And so today I've decided I'm reviewing all 3 of these films, The Rip, Primate, and Night Patrol in one video. I'm really excited about this. With that said, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have. Whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos, I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. And I'm not typically in a hotel room. Typically, the background is very different because I'm at my house in my movie theater room, but again, I'm on the road for work and time is limited, so this is what we're going with. Let's do the reviews for The Rip, for Primate, and for Night Patrol.
You're not giving orders. I don't trust you right now, and that's a problem.
You should just take whatever money you want and walk away before this goes really bad for all of us.
Starting off with The Rip, this is a film that came out on Netflix last Friday. I had the chance to watch this in the comfort of my own home, and I didn't have a lot of high hopes for this film because not only is it a Netflix film, but it's a streaming-only Netflix film, and I feel like Netflix films really don't do well. Outside of Frankenstein, directed by Guillermo del Toro last year, that was a fantastic film, but now I think that we have The Rip, I can say maybe Netflix is trying a little bit harder because this film blew away my expectations. The film is directed by Joe Carnahan, and it stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Scott Adkins, Kyle Chandler, and Sasha Calle. And in this film, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck play police officers who are heading up a special drug money unit within the police force. Their job is to go around and break into places that are stashing drug money, take that money, and get it to the right authorities. And one day they get a tip about $150,000 that's going to be inside of this drug house. They get there, and it's not $150,000, it's $20 million. And so now Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's characters have to decide, along with their police unit, if they're going to do the right thing and turn in this $20 million worth of drug money to the right authorities, or if they or someone from their team is going to try and steal this drug money. While that storyline's going on, there's also a side storyline, a whodunit storyline within this film, because at the beginning of the film you find out that their captain was murdered by a couple of people and they don't know who did it. And so throughout this movie, while they're dealing with this $20 million, they're also dealing with who killed their captain. Was it one of them? Was it an outside person? So this movie has a couple different angles to it, and that is the best synopsis that I can give you for The Rip. Again, this movie is playing on Netflix. If you want to check it out, you can watch it literally at any time, anywhere, on your phone, on a TV, if you've got a Netflix subscription. My first positive for this movie is going to be the acting between both Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They have such great chemistry together, and of course we've known this for such a long time because they started off with Good Will Hunting. They did so great in that movie, and they've been in other films together throughout the years, like The Last Duel, or most recently with Air, 2 movies that I absolutely loved, and I loved their chemistry in those films. And it's the exact same way in The Rip. The chemistry that they have, the bond that they have outside of the movie, just in real life, really shows on that screen, and you love to watch these two interact. Whether they're interacting like brothers who are bickering back and forth, or maybe even physically fighting, you buy into everything that they have going on because the chemistry that they have with each other is so damn real. My next positive for this movie is going to be the action scenes. Yeah, this isn't a full-on action film where non-stop action happens, but there's a couple of shootout scenes because you've got cops guarding all of this money, and there's an edge-of-your-seat action scene car chase at the end of this film that's a lot of fun. I also really enjoyed the whodunit aspect of this film. Had to throw it in my positives because the film opens up with a police captain getting murdered. It's a brutal scene, and then throughout the rest of the film, while you are going along for somewhat of a heist movie and somewhat of an action film, you also have a whodunit thriller mixed in there, and that worked for me. I liked the idea of me wondering what was going to happen throughout this film because you had this looming whodunit. Yes, we have the matter at hand, the $20 million. Yes, we have the shootout scenes that are happening because we're trying to protect this money, but who killed the captain? And that's sort of looming over the rest of the story throughout the film until things are revealed at the end. And that leads directly into my final positive for this film, which is that the twists and turns and reveals in the third act of this film make you, the viewer, want to go back and watch this again with new information, because there's twists and turns that you definitely don't see coming, and when you rewatch the movie, now knowing this new information, well, you rewatch it in a completely different light. You're looking for things or signs or clues from characters that are revealed at the end of the movie, and I thought that was really special. That'll do it for my positives. Now we have to move over to my negatives. So my first negative for this movie is that they do try to combine too much into this film. For instance, it's a bit of a heist movie, it's an action flick, it's a whodunit thriller when it needs to be, and it's also an emotional brotherly drama between these two police officers played by both Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Now, I just praised the movie for a lot of those things in my positives. I'm not saying that these elements didn't work throughout the movie. I think all of them were good, but I didn't think any of them were great because there was so much going on. I think that they have taken one or two of those elements out. This movie might be a great film because of the elements that they kept, but instead they threw all of this into the movie. And again, the elements did work, so it's hard to make this a negative, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that they were good, but they weren't great because there was so much going on. And my other negative for this movie is that they did tie things up a bit messy at the end of the film. Yes, like I said, the twists and turns do reveal some cool things that you can now go back and rewatch, but I did feel like some of the ways they got to those twists and turns did feel a bit messy. It felt a bit rushed, and that might go back to my previous negative where they had too much going on in this film, and because of that, none of those elements really stood out or felt great. All of those elements ended up just feeling good, like they were well done, but they weren't great, and maybe that leads into this negative where some of those elements were tied up very messy. For instance, there's a storyline in this movie about a girl who's stationed at this drug money house, and when the police get there, you find out that she wants to work with them, but she's also terrified that the cartel is going to come after her for giving away this drug money, and so they take time to tie up her story, and it does feel a bit rushed. It does feel a bit messy. Overall, I had an enjoyable time with The Rip. It's a movie that I might personally go back and rewatch, but unfortunately, I don't think this is a movie that we're all going to be talking about a month from now, a year from now. I think this is a movie that will fade into obscurity with the rest of streaming very soon. And I guess what I mean by that is that that's kind of how we treat content as a society now. A movie comes out, we talk about it, we're all excited about it, and then we never talk about it again. A TikTok reel happens, we laugh at it, we keep scrolling. Or hell, even a video like this, you watch it once and you're like, oh, I've seen his thoughts on it, I can move on. That's the content I've consumed. And to be clear, I'm just as guilty at this. We all do it. It's just content is here and then it's gone. And the reason I think this affects The Rip even more is that this is a streaming film, so it already was super easily accessible. So people who watched it, they're just not going to go back to it, and that's very unfortunate. But that said, guys, those are my thoughts and opinions on The Rip. If you've seen The Rip, let me know in that comment section down below. And now we move on to Primate. Primate is a horror film that came out a couple of weeks ago, directed by Johannes Roberts, and this is a film about a girl named Lucy coming home from college with a bunch of her college friends, and their plan is to party the weekend away at her family's tropical island home while her father is busy for the weekend. But when they get there, the family has a chimp named Ben, and typically Ben is a fun time. He's a very clever, friendly chimp, but he recently has been bitten by something that gave him rabies, and so throughout the beginning of this movie, you start to see as Ben goes from being this friendly chimp to a rabid animal. And so this weekend that was supposed to be a fun party time for Lucy and her friends becomes a fight for survival against this very angry chimp. My first positive for this movie is going to be anytime Ben is going on a rampage. Because of the use of practical effects in this movie, when Ben is going after people, ripping out their hair, pulling out their jaws, well, there are some great looking moments of violence in this film, and it's really fun to watch this chimp who doesn't really understand what he's doing. He's just filled with rage going after all of these young adults. And I think that was probably my biggest positive right after watching this movie, because whenever that was happening, I was locked into this movie. And my other positive for this movie is going to be some well-placed moments of tension. I think they do a really good job on trying to ramp up the tension throughout this film, because essentially you've got a chimp tearing people apart as soon as he gets his hands on them, so you want to avoid him as quickly as possible. Whether that's trying to sneak around him, hide in a closet, get in a pool because he's afraid of water since he has rabies. I mean, all of those elements are there, and when they ramp those elements up, I think the tension really works. Going along with some of those tense scenes, I thought there was one very clever moment where two of the characters who were not being clever throughout the movie have one moment that they're very clever, and that is they use the sign language that they typically would use to talk to Ben on each other so they could talk to him with him not seeing them and him not hearing them. But that does it for my positives in this movie. Now we have to get into my negatives. And my first negative for this movie is going to be the wash, rinse, repeat, absolute paint by numbers story that this film has. You've got a chimp, he gets angry because he has rabies, he starts going after people, and then those people try to hide from him, and then those people try to fight him, and he typically wins, and then we wash, rinse, repeat. And we just do this over and over and over, and there's not really this crazy story being built throughout the movie. It's just rage-filled chimp and people that are scared of him trying to get away or trying to fight back, that failing, and then rage-filled chimp and people trying to get away from him or trying to fight back, and then him winning, and then it repeats and repeats and repeats. There's nothing new throughout this film. There's no crazy twist throughout this movie. It is just exactly what they give you. Again, very paint by numbers, and the story becomes very wash, rinse, repeat. Oh, the chimp is coming, get to the pool. Okay, now we're safe. Now we gotta get out of the pool and we gotta do something crazy. Oh, the chimp is coming, we gotta get back to the pool. And it's just constant like that throughout the film. Another negative I have for this movie is the extremely cringy dialogue, and it seems to replace any of the comedy that this movie could have had in the first half of the film. I understand in the back half you wanted it to be tension-based, you wanted that viewer to feel that tension of the film, fine. But in the front half of this movie, when you're building up these characters, making me want to like these characters, well, a good way to do that is to get me to laugh, get me to be on their side. But unfortunately, there's none of that. It's just cringy dialogue, and that doesn't make me like any of the characters. So when you get to this rampaging chimp, you're like, oh, I should be rooting for you, but I really don't like any of these characters. I don't care what the chimp does. And that leads directly into my final negative of this film, and that is that I found myself rooting for the chimp throughout this film, not the humans, and I don't think that's the way it was supposed to be. But because the humans were so cringy in the first half of this film, they were so unlikable in the first half of this film, hell, there's a moment where these two unsuspecting frat guys get called over to the house, and when they get there, of course, this is when all the stuff is going down with the chimp in the movie. You know, the instant that they walk into the house, well, they're gonna die. And they walk into this house, and immediately you don't care if they're gonna die, because first, they just open the door. They just come in. Then they're looking around wondering where everybody's at. They start breaking pictures, opening beers. Like, they're just horrible people, and I found myself rooting for the chimp, and I don't think that's what I was supposed to do. Overall, where do I stand with this movie? Well, I'll say this. It's a fun, bad movie. It's a movie that you can watch once. You can have an enjoyable time with some of the practical effects, the kills, but overall, I do realize it's a bad film. Would I recommend it to people? Absolutely not. Unless you and your friends want to get together and watch a bad horror movie on purpose, that's probably the only reason I would recommend checking out Primate. As always, those are my thoughts and opinions on Primate. I'm excited to know what you guys think about the movie in that comment section down below. Now let's do the review for Night Patrol.
Payback on that demon.
Is it demons? It could be lizard man.
What? Yo, Trip, you bought them silver bullets?
Hold up, blood. That's werewolves, man. You tripping.
I ain't tripping on, I ain't tripping on.
Night Night Patrol is directed by Ryan Prowse, and it stars Justin Long and CM Punk, or Phil Brooks from the WWE. The film has a couple different storylines going on. In one of them, you have a special task force police unit known as Night Patrol. These are the guys that don't mess around. These are the guys that go after the criminals. Or are they some of the criminals? Because they seem to be harboring a very deadly secret within their group. And while that storyline is going on, you've got another storyline concerning Justin Long's character and his police partner, as Justin Long is trying to get into Night Patrol, and you've got both of these two going around the city doing their job as police officers, as Justin Long's character gets pulled more and more toward the dark side of Night Patrol. And that's the best synopsis I can give you without spoiling a bunch of different things. I'm really trying to keep this spoiler free. Not that it's a very good movie, but I don't want to spoil things for you guys, so that's the best synopsis I'm going to do. Let's get into my positives and my negatives. My first positive for this movie is going to be the first act. I thought it was really well done. I liked the grittiness of it, and I liked the mystery and intrigue. I thought there were a lot of interesting concepts that were starting in that first act, especially with Night Patrol. There were so many questions around it. We knew that they were dirty cops. We knew that they were bad from something that they do at the very beginning of the film. And so at that point, you know, okay, these guys, they're looking like the good guys, but they're not the good guys. But what more are they going to show us? And I thought there was enough intrigue and interesting concepts within that first act to really hook me for the rest of the film. My next positive, and another thing coming out of that first act, is the buddy cop relationship that Justin Long has with his partner. In the first act of this film, you get to see them go on a montage throughout the day being police officers, trying to do the right thing, and you really enjoy watching them as they go about their daily lives. It's really fun to watch them, and honestly, I could have watched an entire movie of these two just being police officers. The back and forth that they had was a lot of fun, and watching them be cops was fun. And my final positive for this movie is going to be CM Punk, or Phil Brooks. Again, maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a big WWE fan. I'm a big fan of CM Punk in general, but I thought he carried himself very well throughout this film. He's not given the best dialogue, and that's something we'll get into in my negatives in a little bit, but I thought he carried himself well, and he's somebody that I want to watch in future movies down the road. That'll do it for my positives. Now we move over to my negatives, and my first negative for this movie is that while I really enjoyed that first act, thought I had a lot of great concepts, unfortunately, after that first act, it is an absolute nosedive into plot hole nonsense after that. You got a group of cops on this Night Patrol who turn out to be vampires, and that's not a spoiler because it's in the trailers and it's on the poster. Yes, the Night Patrol guys are vampires, and all of their backstory and what they're trying to do in this movie just gets more and more convoluted as the film goes along. Justin Long is the central character to this film. He's tied into Night Patrol more than he realizes, and even though he's trying to get on Night Patrol, it's something that Night Patrol's been wanting for a very long time. And I felt like the way they took his character also just went down this weird plot hole nonsense that they didn't need to do. It has something to do with his father, who was killed many years ago. Again, it just introduces new characters and opens up all of these convoluted plot lines. And by the end of this film, I was done with this movie. Where it started with an interesting premise with a lot of intrigue, it ended completely flatlining for me. My next negative is another thing that took an absolute nosedive in this film after the first act, and that is the dialogue. Like I said, in the first act, you had that fun back and forth with those police officers, or you had the intrigue of the Night Patrol guys, and so while they're kind of short and gruff, you understand like, hey, these are vampires, so we're just going to go along with that. But as the movie goes along, the dialogue in this movie just gets worse and worse for the characters, almost like they were writing it as they were going along. Like, oh, you know what would be good? If you said this line right now, just go ahead and do that. And I understand that improv exists, but it felt like the whole second half of this movie was just improv lines that weren't working for me. And going along with the idea that the dialogue was being improv throughout the film, I also think the story was being written while they were filming this thing. Like, they started with a great concept. They're like, okay, this is our idea for a movie. Let's start filming. So they did the first act. And again, I think they had a lot of great concepts in there, but I don't think they had a full idea of what they were going to film. If it comes out that they had half a script written for this movie, half an idea, and they just started filming, it would not surprise me at all, because this movie just continuously gets worse and worse as it goes along, and it feels less and less competent as it goes along. Started with great concepts, and then as it goes along, it just gets worse until you get to the end, which absolutely feels like something that they threw together. Just this moment where somebody's rushing a bunch of vampires. Like, that's how this movie ends. Just felt rushed. And that'll lead to my final and biggest negative for this movie, and that is that the vampire stuff within this film doesn't work for me. And I don't understand how you have vampires at the center of your film, or you have vampires as the backdrop to your film, and the vampire stuff is the weakest stuff. I thought what they did with the buddy cop stuff at the beginning of the movie was really interesting. I thought the idea of Night Patrol being these dirty cops having like a training day vibe to them, and then throwing vampires on top of that would really work, but unfortunately it just doesn't. Everything with the vampires in this movie is the weakest part of this film. Whether it's Justin Long and his relationship with his father, whether it's Night Patrol in general, or going after people, how they're getting blood out of people, like they hook IVs to people and then try to fill up these big blood gallon totes. Why? I don't know. It's just another thing they do in this movie that feels like they built it as they went along, and the vampire stuff suffers because they didn't have a competent hold on this movie from the beginning. Overall, this could have been a really fun movie, and it could have been a new classic vampire flick, and unfortunately, this movie just feels like an overbloated mess of ideas that never really came together, and that's too bad. I was hoping for the best out of this movie, and it really let me down. Would I recommend this movie? Absolutely not. Just skip this film if you haven't already. But like the other films on this list, as always, those are just my opinions because that's my review for Night Patrol. Have you guys had a chance to see this film? Let me know in that comment section down below. And guys, those are all 3 of the movies that I saw in the last couple of days. Did you like this format where I gave you 3 reviews within one video? If you did, let me know in that comment section down below. Maybe I'll do this again in the future if I get a little behind on some movie reviews. Or do you prefer, hey, we're going to talk about one movie in this review and that's going to be that, and we'll move on to the next video. Just let me know what you prefer in that comment section. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of doing 3 reviews in one video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to getting home very soon and being back in the comfort of my own movie room to do reviews again. But until that time, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my 2026 reviews right there, and I've got all of my horror movie reviews right there.